Well, first,
And an introduction about yourself as well, please.
an introduction about. لا سيبك من introduction about myself. I mean, you know, my name is. It's not as important as the ideas.
But what do you currently do? Like, let's just get that.
I'm a professor. I'm a professor at a small university, and I host a podcast called The Study with Ahmed Younis, and I'm a former government official, and I've done a few other things.
Okay, cool.
The question of always becoming, it's an important question, Ahmed, because and Bishop and Elena, because you know we as حتى ممكن نقول we as Arab youth are taught and groomed and cultured and domesticated into an environment where كل حاجة صح يا غلط يا حرام يا حلال يا امتياز يا زي الزفت روح بيتكو. Everything is presented as dichotomized. Yeah, كده يا كده.
Yeah, dichotomized.
And that comes from a world of, you know, basic neoliberal necessities for the function of society, grading students. So you and I go to schools that have grades, but if you go to Yale Law School, there are no grades. It comes from the social construction of the expectation of انت ابن فلان او انتي بنت فلان, therefore you must continue on that path. I remember there was like this classic مسرحية, or no, تمثيلية, I don't know the right word, in Egypt called لن أعيش في جلباب أبي, which, yeah, okay, it's self-explanatory, great. So, you know, finishedness is the idea that انت في يوم من الأيام أو انتي في يوم من الأيام حتوصلي إلى مرحلة after which there is not any more a need for becoming. Why? Because the growth path for you that has been presented is التوظيف, الجواز, سواء يعني guy or girl, التوظيف, الجواز,
the normal progression of
التدين
society.
الى حد
Exactly.
يعني مش لازم يكون تدين او like احترم نفسك, show up صلاة الجمعة, show up في الكنيسة, go to your, you know, like the
basics.
The basics. And what we do is we miniaturize our vision of what is possible for ourselves.
حلو.
Pursuant to this context. يعني أنا مثلا أنا كأحمد I can live at a 40%, 50, 60% effort. And for the most part, everything is going to be okay. حناكل وحنعيش, we're going to pay the mortgage, and we're going to do that. And in most parts of the world, I am incentivized to live that kind of a life. أروح المكتب, أرجع من المكتب, يومين في النادي, نتعشى مع whoever. The life that you and I know when I lived in Egypt, that life. حياة الرفاهية. يعني we're not saying you don't work, we're not saying it's not hard, but at the end of the day ممكن نشيش على البحر. Whereas somebody else at the end of the day قاعد في شقة with 25 نفر other than them. Okay. And we're presented with this idea that the right job, the right car, طبعا إن شاء الله بإذن الله حتوصل S class, بس لو أنت C class it's okay, لأن إن شاء الله في يوم من الأيام ربنا حيفتح عليك بدعاء أمك وحتوصل ل S class. Right? Because that's kind of the idea, right? Or إن شاء الله حتفتح شركة and you're gonna be amazing and you're gonna... Okay, those are all wonderful things. But those are not endpoints. Those are simply more stops along the journey. The journey to where? The journey to some sense of self-actualization.
Okay.
Like there is no human who has a lot of money who is now, khalas ba, you know, it's good. Now I can just like sit in this chair for the rest of my life and keep sitting in this chair. It is not natural for anything that is living to be the same 2 days in a row or 2 hours in a row. The tree that's outside of this room, it's not the same tree as it was yesterday. So the idea that you are finished, quote unquote, khalast, is a myth. It's a part of the mythology that is presented to us as the answer for overcoming the difficulties of life. انت بس لو هديت نفسك وخدت الوظيفة الصح واتجوزت البنت الصح واكلت فول وبيض 3 ايام في الاسبوع, everything is going to be fine. Why? Because you are following the normative way of being of the people around you, and therefore there is nothing shaz, there is nothing out of the ordinary. Is that the right word? Sorry if I used the wrong word.
Yes.
There is nothing out of the ordinary. There is nothing like yambud from just the normal everyday shit.
To be honest, Ahmed, is it okay if I jump in with a question?
طبعا, of course.
Yeah. You raise a very interesting point. You said it in the beginning, and you managed to circle back to it. Who were kind of indoctrinated into, let's say, the traditions of the past. I sometimes think about that. ليش يعني the problem, I think, in the Arab world, or not the problem, but if I was to analyze it, you get indoctrinated. That's expected. The culture will have to collapse into a single structure under which we all live in. It can't be that free-spirited. It's a collection of all the thoughts. So my question would be, if the structure should not be that way, how should it be? Isn't it necessary that the structure is set up in a way when it has like fixed rules and like rulers and protractors through which you measure society? You have to have that so you can have الحالة الشاذة.
You're absolutely right. That's a
so if not that type of structure, how should it be?
I hear you. Brilliant intervention. Bishop. Think of it this way. We used to measure GDP of nation states as a metric for the health of the country. And then we came a time where Tunisia and 50 other countries had the same GDP, but only Tunisia had a revolution. And we said, okay, well, clearly we're not measuring the correct things. We have to measure something other than GDP. So we said, okay, let's try to measure well-being. Well, how do we measure well-being? Well, we're going to have to poll a whole lot of people about what they are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And from that, we will develop metrics, right? Like, we are not saying no measures. We are not saying no assessments. We are saying, let us assess the right things. بدل ما أنا أحفظك نص مأساة عصفورة, I can spend the same money from the government to teach you programming. I can teach you Arabic grammar in a way that is connected to the linguistic realities of the world, instead of teaching you Arabic grammar in the way that reinforces the exceptionalism of our culture.
Beautiful. How does this specific idea of teaching you the different things as opposed to staying to what is being taught right now, how does it tie to the idea of always becoming?
بس خليك I just want to modify the phrase things being taught now. Like the things being taught at AUC, for example, American University of Cairo. Or whatever elite Amman, what's it called, Ahmed? What's
الألمانية.
There's the
الألمانية. Okay.
If you walk into that classroom and you walk into the classroom of المدرسة الحكومية على أول الشارع, and you see the different experiences that the student is having, immediately you realize إن حوار إن إحنا والعالم العربي وإحنا متخلفين, حوار ده حوار واقع. Like that is the discourse of the privilege. That is the discourse of those who have achieved. Like if you come to Egypt, for example, many people of privilege will tell you, إحنا ما ينفعش هنا الديمقراطية. Not that I'm arguing for, we're just having a good conversation. I'm not very political person. إحنا هنا ما نقدرش ديمقراطية. ليه يا عم الحاج ما تقدرش ديمقراطية؟ إحنا شعبنا متخلف.
Mm.
And how did that happen, dog? Was there like an alien abduction of your shab from outer space and then you all became mutakhallifin? No, it is reproduced. It is culturally reproduced. Why do we culturally reproduce things? Because there is benefit to them. Like,
And how do you break that though? Like, okay, like theoretically speaking, you're saying like all of these things, but on the ground, I mean, it's not that easy to break. It's not that easy to like completely dismantle a society and rebuild it in a way where you need to prioritize the things that need prioritizing in your point of view, and which I think reach to the theory in retrospect, which is always becoming. So I just want to like pick on what you mean by becoming, because I think that way we can dismantle the things that we want to dismantle in our existing society and see how we can move forward.
Okay, can I just take one step? That's brilliant, Elena. Can I just take one step back? I am not of the opinion that societal change begins with changing society. So let's just take one step back. I am talking about changing the way that we engage with reality. I'm talking about the ability of an individual to develop a dialogue between the world and the word. Like even in our own tradition, you know what I mean? Like I can think of a million different Arabic quotations from Islamic scholars that say like there has to be some balance between the word and the world in order for there to be some sort of a benefit to even conservative traditionalism in religion. So what I'm saying is, are we able to develop a way of being as individuals, as families, as larger families, as communities, that relies on two things? Number one, a shared set of moral and ethical beliefs. Okay, we're not saying anything goes, everything goes, throw religion out there. We're not saying any of that. A common set of moral and ethical beliefs. And number two, the ability to dissent from the norm without getting killed, tortured, beaten, burned, jailed. حاجات basics يعني انا مش واحد عبقري بيقول الكلام ده يعني اي واحد في الشارع ممكن يقول لك الكلمتين دول. Okay, that has to happen. The other thing that has to happen is we need to build society in a way. Okay, wait, let me change that sentence. Okay. We need to inject enticements for personal development.
Yes.
يعني مثلا عندك دكتور زبالة بياخد 100 عيان في اليوم. Okay, and he's doing garbage work. And you got another doctor, he's taking 65 patients a day, but he's doing excellent work. In the vast majority of societies around the world, including the one that I'm living here in the United States, اللي عنده 100 عيان أحسن من اللي عنده 65 عيان. Why? Of course it's a رقم. Of course.
طيب فانت هلا بالنسبه لك انه انت بدك تحسن البيرسونال ديفلوبمنت او to inject and entice الناس هدول اللي هم بحسسهم limited from becoming.
Absolutely.
And through that we have personal development. What falls under personal development?
Beautiful. Number one, the ability to look inward. Reflexivity.
I like that.
Come on, man. احنا يعني كمان we're not talking بالياباني هنا يا جماعة. احنا كلنا من نفس المكان يا جماعة. That's literally the definition of how we're treated. I mean, now I'm 41, so I'm one of them now. I'm not one of you anymore. But like, you see what I'm saying?
No, you're still one of us.
يا ستي الله يكرمك ده بس عشان انت.
لا والله.
So
41 بعزك.
الله يخليكي. So the question becomes like, number one, the capacity for introspection, the capacity for reflexivity, the capacity to look inward without the need to abuse oneself.
Can I just say something? Sorry, yeah. I know I'm like interrupting a lot.
You're not. It's your show.
I'm gonna take like two case studies, like a case study, sorry, and put two people in it. So you have like a person that has similar background as us four, all right? So like educated, exposed, traveled, read. And then you have the person that is from the Madrasa al-Hukumiyya, that's right down the street, and they're born and raised in the same place. They don't really like travel. They haven't met other people, etc., etc. And you put these two people and you tell them, okay, look inwards, okay, and طلع كل القرف اللي بقلبك و look inwards وحب حالك ومديتيت وتنفس ويلا وجريت.
Yeah.
Bishir made a point in episode 1 actually of this podcast, and he said, and I thought a bit of it a little bit, no, it's not beneficial for a lot of people to go inwards. They don't have time to go inwards. عرفت علي? They want to feed their kids, they want to get by. So هذا societal norm اللي احنا we want to inject personal development فيه صح for the benefit long term of the بني آدم، بس بالآخر الزلمة ولا فارقة معاه his personal development إذا أولاده جوعانين.
صح.
طبعا.
So what do you say about that?
طبعا, of course, yeah, of course. Number one, this is only immediately available to the privileged. Number two, this is why we need systems that make mental health, physical exercise, emotional and psychological well-being available to people who are not only among the privileged. طبعا, actually in my last podcast episode, I spoke to this issue. No, we are not talking about yoga in Newport Beach. We are talking about the basic building blocks of any farming community in the world, any Rastafarian community in the world, any group of people who are practicing yoga in any group. Yani, the idea that your power comes from within, this is not some sort of like liberal American hocus pocus heaven. Okay? So then I'm going to ask you the question. هو عارف يأكل نفسه? Okay, and so therefore he has the time to look within. انت مش عارف تأكل عيالك, and so you don't have the time to look within. If you insist on not looking within عشان انت مش عارف تأكل عيالك, is that guy losing?
Which is the other one?
Yeah. لا. However, if you look within, I'm not saying look within, meditate with smoke coming out of your ears. I'm saying have the capacity to be able to understand, why am I feeling this way?
Emotionally regulate yourself.
Are you serious?
You know, like, Ahmed.
Yeah, تفضل.
Sorry to interrupt you. We're in the middle of a sentence, but you say something that's very, very interesting. It's implicit in the sentence you just said. We're saying, you know, it would be great to have a society where those institutions that support physical health and mental health and all of that. And I feel هذا بيصير بالتطور لما نصفي نحن أقرب للpoint وين نحن جاهزين to interact with that idea. And when I look at the Arab world now, and again, I'm imposing my view of it. And I don't know if that's true or not. But I feel we lag very much behind in that sense. And to connect it to another thing you said, when you said the difference in dialogue between, say, Madrasa Hukumiyya, one of the elite universities in a country, there's a chasm between the two. And the fact that I have to think, why do I feel that way, makes me think, you know, you have to have that chasm so that someone feels something inside that begs the question, why am I feeling that way? In that sense, that chasm, that disparity between the two is actually beneficial. And it shows you what I want to feel, or how the type of dialogue that I want to have. And I hope this podcast kind of sheds light on that. You know, we're showing people the type of dialogue you can have, and then someone feels that it doesn't resonate with them, even though they want it to. And that space makes them.
Yeah.
I think that chasm is very valuable. And I think in our societies, the first thing we have to do is share that experience of not being able to have a dialogue, so that we can all like meditate on why that is the case. I don't know if that makes any sense. I feel like
it makes it makes a lot of, you know, I'll give you an example. Like I've been in a lot of like VIP type of track to diplomacy gatherings. And I'll give you an example of when you sit with a group of high-level, highly educated rabbis, okay? And there are senior rabbis and junior rabbis. The thoroughness and loving aggression with which the young rabbis are holding the older rabbis to account as it relates to the coherence of their ideas is extremely admirable.
Wow.
Extremely admirable. Now,
can you say that again, please?
Elaborate, yeah.
Can you say that? That's yeah.
There are. Can I just let me get to the point, and then I'll repeat it very quickly.
Yes.
The point is, أنت ممكن يكون عندك socialist system, dictatorial system that is focused on the health and well-being of the citizens, and you can have a socialist dictatorial system that's focused on the health and well-being of the elites. You can have a democratic system. Come to the United States, man. We live here in a democracy. That democracy is serving the 1%, and it is absolutely destroying.
But then it's immediately not a democracy.
Anyways, whatever it's called, the other 99%, right?
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that this society cannot become a society that is just instead of unjust? Of course it can. Does that mean that we are reaching for a utopian ideal that is never attainable? Yes, to some extent, yes. That is why we are always becoming. Because there is no world where there is no oppression. There is no world where there is no injustice.
Yeah.
But there is a world where we say طز مش فارقة معايا, and a world where we say the reality there is going to impact me at some point in time. Therefore, I need to build some. I mean, like Jordan is the best example. I will say this totally openly. I was a senior State Department official in the United States government. Okay. And people would come, diplomats from the Arab world would come for meetings, and I would sit as a senior person watching them. Any diplomat that comes from the Arab world other than Jordan, most people don't really understand what they're saying. It seems like they're kind of talking like inside of their mouths. You don't really I have no idea what this meeting is about. It feels like that. When the Jordanian diplomat comes, perfect English, perfect talking points, asks for something before the meeting is up. She knows what she's doing. Yes. She knows what she is doing.
And it's a she?
Or he. Yeah, I mean, Jordan
she.
Jordan has I think the ambassador now is a woman and the ambassador before was a woman. Yeah. Anyway, you see what? But it's also progressive to always use she as the example instead of he. But you see what I'm saying? يعني انت دلوقتي عندك عالم عربي produces حاجة زي a Jordanian diplomat. طب بقية الشعب اللي هناك دول مالهم؟ يعني
بقية الشعب قصدك العالم العربي؟
في العالم العربي انت ما تعرفوش انتوا تصدروا ده؟ عايزين نصدر ده. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so then the question becomes, what is happening in the environment in Jordan that leads to the development of this kind of diplomat, and what is happening in country X انت وانا عارفينها كويس جدا that is leading to the development of دبلوماسيين مزبلة.
The existence of someone like a Jordanian diplomat that knows what they want and is proof. Is proof
that it's possible.
That it's possible.
That is, يا عم تعالى يا عم انت هنا أمريكا. Ahmed saw it with his own eyes. I'm sure you too. Like you can't find. I mean, it's very hard to find someone who comes from our part of the world who's not really successful and really impressive. It's really hard. I mean, you got to work really hard to like. ده حتى لو فاتح فول وطعمية, he's got 3 shops and he's doing it and he's giving to the local whatever church wants. So the question becomes very simple. What is the purpose of the organization of society?
Okay.
Is it stability?
I want you to hit on. I want you to hit on the point of the psychological point of not being able to see or believe in the quote untested feasibility of
على فكرة أنت الأسئلة بتاعتك جامدة جدا. أنت you must have studied with a very smart professor in America. Your questions are really good.
ما شاء الله.
الله أكبر عليه. الراجل راجل طيب.
now we're not speaking about a micro example. We're speaking about the human.
I hear you. The best book on this from the critical theory world is by a man named Eric Fromm. ERICHFROMM. Okay. Eric Fromm also has a book called The Art of Loving, which is brilliant. But Eric Fromm
where is he from?
From Germany.
I know.
دي كانت سهلة دي. يعني بقول لك. Eric Fromm is from Germany. Eric Fromm, the book is called Escape from Freedom.
Oh, he fled the Nazi regime. Wow.
لا it's a philosophy piece. هو بيقول لك that you as a human being, you are always trying to escape from freedom. Why? Because the tribe, the family, the connections, they give you security, safety,
identity,
longevity, identity, which طبعا in يعني today maybe identity is more important than money حتى أو more important than food. Okay, the tribe, the gathering, the lemma, the collective, the عيلة, the whatever, this gives the badge, the rutba, whatever. It gives you identity. And so you as a human being are always trying to escape from freedom. Why? Because freedom requires responsibility.
How is that freedom? That's the opposite of freedom.
What's the opposite of freedom?
Being within a family, being within a society, that's you being constrained. How did he see it as freedom?
He doesn't. He's saying you're escaping from freedom by going back to that model.
Oh.
يعني أنت كبني آدم, you developed all the way until you could say إيش بقى الترايب بتاعي إيش انتوا بقى إيه أنا I don't want to eat this stuff anymore. أنا هروح كده أركب المركب وأروح هناك and I'm going to start interacting with those people over there. This is unheard of. Okay, now that human beings started to do that, they started to escape from freedom by doing what? By reverting back. The simplest example. Religion in the Arab world as فريق كورة. أنا مسلم وأنت مسلم يا أبو حميد، إحنا نلبس الجيرزي الأخضر مخطط. الأخ اللي هناك ده مسيحي قبطي يلبس جيرزي أزرق مخطط. الأخ اللي هناك مسيحي كاثوليكي يلبس جيرزي بنفسجي مربع. Okay, this idea that we are on different teams and these teams represent an interest greater than, which of course they don't, the well-being of all people. This is part of what's causing it. ما بقولكش ما تبقاش مسلم، ما بقولكش ما تبقاش مسيحي، ما بقولكش don't understand the beauty of the uniqueness، ما بقولكش everything is the same. Of course not. But what I'm saying is, what are the things that animate the beauty of these identities, and how can we come together to reinforce them in a way that builds society pursuant to a collectively agreed upon set of values instead of interests, instead of
no, it's not human. I think you يعني I think الكور تاعون كل هدول الجروبس الكاثوليك والقبطي والمسلم الفاليوز تبعونهم are set. عرفت علي؟ انه خلص انه انا بهذا التيم الفاليو تاعي موجود، بس الانسان بني ادم اوكي دائما رح يكون في interest انه it's there's an argument انه the humanity is selfish to a certain extent, because whatever they have, they just want more and more and more to feed their interest, to feed their material, to feed their megalomaniac, to feed their ego. Okay, and I think for you, like to reach the level where you are at, as an educated
I'm not there.
man.
لا. We're just talking about ideas.
لا يعني عم بحكي إنه you're closer there, let's say, than other people. Okay.
اسألي مراتي
لسه عندك هدول الانترست. انت يعني لو بيجي واحد بيعطيك شيك ب1,000,000 دينار او $1,000,000 او يحكي لك تاخذ هذا الشيك او تركز على الفاليوز تبعونه، قلت له يلعن ابو الفاليوز تبعوني خليني اخذ $1,000,000.
Hell no.
مثلا
that's the story of my life. Ask Abu Ahmed, man. He lived with me here. It's the story of my life. We could be millionaires right now.
بس isn't that the يعني most people ما بتحسهم they lean more towards interest rather than value?
You started
Abu Ahmed, let me just respond to Elena's point very quickly. Forgive me for interrupting, because it's such an important point. Elena, I would suggest to you, based on the work of a guy named Bill Urey, a book called Getting to Yes and a book called Third Siders. I would suggest to you that people are actually not affixed or very committed to values. They're actually more committed to their interests. And when we're negotiating, we often negotiate based on the positions that are being claimed, as opposed to negotiating the actual interests that are driving these positions to come into. Okay, لو أنا مع نفسي ما عنديش I can recite like 15 songs that have the idea, if you don't get your shit together, I'm not very clear on how you're going to be like figuring out how to make this a great country or make this a great city or export your ideas, or like in every piece of art there is that simple concept. What I'm saying is a necessary prerequisite to social change is personal development. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that our societies are oppressive because it's our fault. I'm not saying احنا لو نضفنا يبقى الحكومات هتنضف. No, I'm not saying any of that regressive stuff. I'm simply saying انت مش هتقدر تغير، انت مش هتقدري تغيري اللي حواليكي الا لو كان عندك قدره ان انت تغيري اللي جواكي.
تتغيري من نفسك من
Come
جوا.
on, these are basics, man. These are in the jungles in Jamaica بيقولوا كده, وin the jungles in India بيقولوا كده, وفي الصحراء في العالم العربي بيقولوا كده. These are the basics
صحيح.
of wisdom.
صحيح.
I was just reading Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, his book Meditations this morning. Same ideas. ليه؟ لأن هي نفس الموضوع. أنت, you have two options. Whether you're poor or you're rich, whether you're powerful or you're not powerful, whether أنت ابن ناس أو ابن الشارع أو ابن منجا, مش فارقة. You only have two options. Number one, are you going to live pursuant to your interest, or are you going to live pursuant to principle? هل انت واحد بتخش وتقول يا جماعه انا سرقت يا جماعه وانا غلطان وايه يا جماعه الحاجات وانا متاسف؟ It's not going to happen again. Or are you the one that's going to forever run away and say انا ما عملتش اي حاجه؟ بشر.
No, I wanted to hear your second point. You were stating 2 points. I just want to hear the second one and then I can ask mine.
I think the first one is, are you living pursuant to interest or to principle? The second is, do your decisions change based on whether you have power or whether you're weak? Like, does the positionality, يعني احنا عندنا مثلا in our ثقافة عامة, we believe in a natural order. الست مثلا مش مفروض تكون criminal lawyer because she can't really deal with like death penalty cases, and مش you can cuss in front of your friends and your students who are male, but don't cuss in front of women because it's حوار.
Yeah.
Are you someone who does what is permitted even though you know it is unethical?
Can you give us an example from your work about the second point you raised?
Are you someone who does something that is permitted?
That changes. No, that changes depending on being powerful.
Positionality.
Or positionality.
Yeah, sure. The United States not being held accountable by the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice. انت عمال تقول لي democracy و human rights و freedom وزفت الطين, وبعدين انتوا you torture a bunch of people in a prison in Iraq and we can't hold you accountable according to international law. Very simple. Like, at the end of the day, authentic leadership requires a lack of hypocrisy. No human is capable of a lack of hypocrisy. So what we do instead is admission, introspection, a willingness to change, a willingness to grow. الراجل طالع بيقول لك يا جدعان اشربوا Clorox. A bunch of people die and then he goes, oh, it's not my fault, I didn't do anything. I had nothing to do.
بس أنا I don't think a guy like Donald Trump اللي بيحكي اشربوا Clorox أو أي حدا in that level of unfathomable power want to change, want to have.
Yeah, there is this kind of, you need to develop the urge.
واحد. مش that you can't develop the urge يا أحمد. No, أنت
you
واحد
need to develop the urge. You need to develop the urge to change. You can't just simply, you need to.
وبعدين اتفضل يا أحمد. Sorry.
You need to have, like, this is also this also goes back and ties back to interest. Like the fact that you're gonna put hypocrisy to the side and lead effectively and lead, it's gonna be more effective, which ties back to your interest. You're gonna become a more effective leader if you put hypocrisy and all these all these regressive ideas to the side. I think it does tie to interest, self-interest.
أنا for me that's my point إنه it doesn't actually at all لأنه صفر بinterest Donald Trump أو أي حدا from that league of power يفوتوا جوا while they're getting the money, they're getting more power, they're getting more votes, they're getting everything. فشو استفاد يعني مش من مصلحته. مش من مصلحته. صفر من مصلحته.
You're absolutely right. And we're not expecting a society where everyone is good. We're not expecting a society where everyone is ethical. We're not expecting a society where everyone represents our ideals. And also, we're not depending on people's goodwill to do the right thing in order for us to have an ethical society. That's why we have a system. That's why we have courts. That's why we have rules. That's why we hold people accountable. However, انت لو ابوك وامك ربوك زي ترامب غير لما ابوك وامك ربوك زي نيلسون مانديلا. Sorry.
صح.
Right? Okay. انت لو بلد كاملة بتطلع ترامبس ولا بتطلع مانديلاز؟ Okay, let's say ان انت عايز تطلع مانديلاز. My question, how?
Yes.
That's where we start building. How?
Nice.
اي واحد في العالم العربي تقول لك حاجة يقول لك ايه؟ بشر يقول لك ايه؟ لازم نغير نظام التعليم في العالم العربي. What is he really saying? الناس دي لازم تتكلم انجليزي وتتعلم كمبيوتر عشان تشتغل عشان ما تعمل لناش مشاكل. That's actually not going to change a goddamn thing. It's not going to change anything.
I agree with that point because I don't know if that's a position I will keep in the rest of my life. I'm still young, but I am of the belief that
for the rest of your life.
Definitely be as fluid.
You're always becoming.
He's always becoming Bishir. You're always becoming.
Definitely. I sincerely think that real change comes from by adopting an individualistic view of life rather than the collective. However, circling back to escaping freedom, I think you say something that's very interesting, and as you said, إنه في truths that transcend a certain area وما بتكون something that everyone chants the same song. إنه when you're the first question that I asked, إنه في sometimes structures end up being in a way, and it's necessary that these traditions become kind of like molds because that's their purpose. That's a common identity under which we can all fit. And the true story of the hero هو بتطلع هذا السيستم بقول لك I don't subscribe to that, and they go their different paths. But self-actualization and the actual impact on society does not occur until that person comes back with the ideas that he left with. Yani he goes, he explores, and he comes back, and he starts seeing the traditions in a new light because he discovered new lights. And if let's take for example, and even though like maybe it's not perfect to take religious examples, but isn't that what happened to Prophet Muhammad, for example? He did not subscribe to whatever the society was at that moment. هو كان يتعبد. Then he had to go to the Medina to come back to liberate أهل مكة من their old mentality. And that's why it's not one or the other. You need the tradition to be a mold because ما أوتيت إلا لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. There are merits to it. You have to go explore the other merits and then circle back and have that new vision to reshape society.
Yeah, yes, I would say it slightly differently. I would say that there is a dialectic relationship between the word as revelation and the world as revelation. And you cannot engage in an intelligent, nuanced, comprehensive tafsir of the word of religion without having literacy in the world, right? Like معظم الناس اللي بيمارسوا religion at a leadership level when they speak ما فيش أي حد بيسمع كلامهم. Like when I was at the State Department and they were like, hey, we need to organize like a conglomerate of imams around the world that say terrorism is bad. I was like, y'all think these people listen to imams, dog? Nobody listens to imams. No, don't nobody get a shit what these people think, bro. That's why we have terrorism, dog. Good. So the idea that you're saying is 100% true. ولكن there has to be a dialectic tension. There has to be a rhythmic relationship ما بين individual development with societal development. ولكن here's what I want to say, Bishop, perhaps maybe as closing. It is not upon you as an individual to take on the obligation of prophethood. طبعا انت لازم ترجع وتعلم وتربي وتغير وهكذا. ولكن most people shy from their role in society because they think maybe it won't be perfect, maybe it's gonna hurt me, maybe it's gonna like the idea of ربنا يستر or توكلنا على الله, those are always becoming concepts. Those are always becoming, I mean, does ربنا يستر mean ربنا هيديني اللي انا عايزه زي ما انا قلت انا عايزه? No. Does inshallah? No. I mean, inshallah, other than like when I tell my kids, inshallah, you'll have candy later. The real inshallah. Like it's not, that is a belief in the possibility of always becoming. But what did we do as humans to those two concepts? We ossified them and calcified them and made everything haram or halal.
Halal.
يعني انت ربك حاجة جميلة كده فلة كده, so open and beautiful, smell roses. God gave you a whole garden. يا أخي, have you been to the Rose Garden in Vienna? It makes that place look like a kharaba. God gave you a whole garden of ideas, and you know what we did? We said كل الفلاورز دي معفنة, أنا بس عايز الفلاور اللي هناك دي, and I want to reproduce that flower.
Wow.
Theory of education. Banking theory of education. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of a bird that changes its song to be less beautiful? I never heard of that. Why would the same God create a human whose job is to sing a less beautiful song?
I like that.
There's no
way.
Like it drops.
What a conclusion.
An ending,
There's no
like
way.
it drops.
I love you all.
Ahmed Younis, you have been a light to Meidan AlTahlil, and I hope.
Wait, استنى. What's this show called?
ميدان
التحليل. مش تحرير, تحليل.
افتكرت قلت ميدان التحرير, كنت هقول
لا.
انت كمان. Ahmed and Elena and Bishir, I love you, and I wish you all the best. And
I hope this is not the last time. We hope that this is not the last time, and thank you for all the insights, the ideas, and we're gonna leave you at that. Thank you so much.